And this is indeed the last daily of the month of June. Welcome to Day 9 Daily number 472, where we learn to be a better gamer. This shirt's awesome. Yeah, Battlestar Trek Wars, yes! I laughed so hard when I saw this shirt. I don't know if anyone else finds it as equally funny, but God, I love this shirt, Battlestar Trek Wars. Yes, excellent. Time for a StarCraft commentary with a Battlestar Trek Wars shirt as I try not to run over my phone charger. Excellent. Today's daily topic is going to be about none other than the Stephano really fast max zerg vs. Protoss style. You hear me say this with a heavy sigh, and yes, we'll get to that in a little bit. Let me just give the brief introduction to the show topic. It is the style of Zerg versus Protoss, where we max out very quickly, extremely low-tech army, Ling Roach, and just batter the opponent down so badly that we outright win in an incredibly high percentage of situations. And we can deflect almost any all-in just by having this very, very nice setup. Cool, that's the topic of the day. Let me talk a little bit about vacations. I am going on vacation starting on Monday, and it is the first vacation I've had in a very long time. I am actually being forcibly vacated. In other words, I was doing too much work, and it's bad for your health to, only work, and there's going to be this weird moment when I'm going to stagger outside on Monday and be like, I can actually just, do things like read a book, or go to the arcade. I'm so going to the arcade so many times. Going to play the brand new Beatmania 2DX Linko machine is going to be there. Woo! Some arcade goers know what I'm talking about, and no one else does. I'm going to be doing a lot of that. So, I really got to stop throwing my glasses in places where I can't see them. It's hard to continue. So, I would love if you would tweet at me at Day9TV all sorts of things that I should be doing when I'm on break. It's kind of a staycation where I'm going to be in the LA area, but anywhere within driving distance, like within 6-7 hours driving distance, totally let me know. I'm intending on going to San Francisco, hanging out with Tristan, reading Name of the Wind, playing there some games I got to get through. I want to do a lot of Magic the Gathering. Yeah, I'm going to get to do some coding over my break. I haven't programmed in a really long time. I was even thinking the other day that I've never fiddled with the map editor. Maybe I'll do something awesome, like replace every sound effect in StarCraft 2 with sound effects from my own voice. That would be so cool. That's the stuff you've just stimmed! Coffee! This would be so great. Anytime you stim, you just hear me screaming in your ear. Excellent. Now what I want to talk about... Oop, crap, I have the wrong game loaded up. Now what I want to talk about is this style of Zerg vs. Protoss from Stephano. Let's open up the very simple one that he played against Parting. Fantastissimo. Let's talk a little bit about ZvP, shall we? Basic formulation. Zergs early expand. Protosses responded by early expanding as well. And Zerg said, I will one-up you, and expanded again. So we see 3 base Zerg versus 2 base Protoss all the damn time. This is the most fundamental basic setup in the entire matchup. But Zergs, for a while, were struggling quite a bit because there's, I'd probably say, 4 or 5 big things that can hit you between 7 minutes and 10 minutes. Very fast 4 warp gate pushes can come at around 7:15. Very normally timed 8 gate all-in pushes can be coming at 8 minutes. Void Ray Phoenix play is going to be hitting you at 8 minutes. There's Dark Templar going to be hitting around that time frame as well. Assume you early expanded and went for it. So a lot of Zergs kind of felt this need to get, the Evolution Chamber and Spores for air and a bunch of Queens and get some early units to be able to deflect against this. And all the while, it was kind of interrupting the Zerg's goal of getting a lot of drones. What we're going to see is Stephano has a way... God, this camera is constantly sliding. Sorry about that. In these games, we're going to see that Stephano has essentially optimized defense against a big variety of openings and still can get enough drones up to be able to do a huge swing back at the Protoss right when Protoss is yearning for that oh-so-special third base. Two-base play from Protoss is actually not a big deal for Stephano to deal with because he's just getting such a huge army so quickly that even if you do stick to two-base and turtle up hard, Stephano's going to have enough units and enough economy to run you down. Is there anything else notable? Oh, yeah, here's the order of the show. In part 1, we are going to be focusing a lot on what Stephano is doing. The big what. And then that way you can literally steal the build from this part 1 and go off and do it in the wild. In part 2, we're going to see some problems that end up occurring with this build order. Issues where our attack doesn't work as well as we want, and why we would end up losing. And also we're going to see how to fix that in part 2. And in part 3, we're going to, again, look at another potential deficiency of Stephano's style. For the Zerg player, here is the basic framework. We want to be getting a lot of Roach Ling to defend and attack early on. In the ultra late game, we want to be getting that Broodlord Infestor Corruptor mix. But Broodlord Infestor Corruptor is very different from Roach Ling. So we have to figure out a link in the middle. And this link is where we're going to see all the problems that Stephano has. But hell, right at the very start, it's awesome. Let's go ahead and hop into it with the audio on. I was a little bit about the watching Stephano play because literally this build is so optimized that he does the exact same damn thing in every single one of his tournament games at the Red Bull Battlegrounds. I mean, literally every single game. I was starting to just become a terrible commentator because I'm like, wow, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think he might go for that same 4-hatch all-in play again? And Marcus is like, yes, Sean, yes, he will. And I was like, I agree, Marcus. I don't know why I asked. He literally was doing this every single time, which I will say, from like a tournament excitement perspective, I would say that it could potentially interrupt some of the fun a little bit, because you know what's going to happen. But from a player standpoint, like if you, gosh, what's going on with my equipment? From a player point of view, you can do this Stephano build every game on the ladder with huge success. You can always do it. It's great. Do it, do it, do it, do it. I encourage you to do it. First things first, spawning pool on 14. Emphasizing the spawning pool on 14. Yeah. And we continue to drone our way up. And what I will also note is that very often, Zerg players will go a little bit nuts, trying to send 2 drones early, sending an extra drone down here. Don't do any of that. Play very simply Occam's razor style. Just trust in the strength of this build. Send your drone so that way it can build on time at your natural expansion. If he should block it, we'll look at that a little bit later, but I chose this first basic game because we do see that the hatch goes down. You will get blocked a lot. No stress. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. When that pool is done, build the queen first. We see 1 ling. You can build a second set of lings, but Stephano has a tendency not to. And this is something that I think is quite important to note. Actually, I'm going to do these Stephano cam. The success of this style is now reliant on the speed of overlords. The fact that an overlord can get cross-map and spot this type of expand going on. And we're going to see some clever placement by Stephano with these overlords. The second overlords, yeah, just going to useful locations like to these little pillars here. But this first one, most notably, you want to have by the geysers of the natural. Excellente. Okay. As you are getting past 20 food, just send another droney over. Stephano does not do any of this. He just builds the second queen right away. As you can see, you can opt to not make this second queen, and you can expand 15 seconds earlier, but this opening, this very, very, super early game, like before the 6 minutes, is not actually an ultra set in stone timing. You just want to get these 3 bases up in a reasonable fashion. So once again, we are doing the what of this build. He is just going non-stop droning, and one of the more important aspects of this opening stage is that these zerglings are being very active, picking off the probe, scouting to make sure there's no nearby pylons. But up until this point, we are just droning. Now, I will note something. There's... how would I say it? There's a lot of builds that you can do well or do not so well. But no matter what, anyone watching knows the build that you're doing. Here's a really basic example. I'm Terran. I early expand and go 3 barracks, and then I quickly tech up to medevacs. If you forget SCVs, or you're getting supply blocked, or maybe you forgot to build a reactor on your starport, things will be a little bit slow. You might not have as many units, but you're basically doing it. You're basically doing it, even though everything is a little bit slow. With Stephano's build, I want to note, you absolutely must hit your injects on. It's not like, well, Stephano will do the attack and it'll hit around 11 minutes, but when I do it, it hits around 12:30, and that's okay. I want to emphasize that it is so critical that you hit every larva inject right on. Every single larva inject must occur. Otherwise, you actually can't do this build. And for many of you who are saying, well, I'm a bronze leaguer, there's no way I can hit those larva injects every time. You actually can, because this build is not particularly complicated other than these spot-on larva injects. One thing that I think is quite important is to have this queen going to this hatch quite early. The specific timings of the very, very early game, I'm not emphasizing too much, because again, sometimes you'll get blocked, sometimes you'll have to build a queen first, sometimes you won't. But just note that you want these 3 queens distributed very, very early on, as you are just churning out drones. Starting at the 6-minute mark is when I'm actually going to begin saying some timings. At 6 minutes, take 2 geysers. 6 minutes, 2 geysers. Right on. Notice that Stephano continues to not miss his larva injects. This is going to get him a very, very healthy amount of Oikas and stuff. Now, not that much is going to change in the opening, but still, you want this Overlord to be able to be spotting here by these gas geysers. Around 6:30, if you see 2 geysers, holy crap, are you fine, man? This is just never going to be an early aggression play. This just really interrupts all forms of aggression. But even then, we're still not going to change our build that much. Stephano certainly didn't. If you lose your initial set of lings, it's okay to rebuild an extra 2 or so, but just don't go too crazy. I mean, we even see Parting doing this push with this Stalker, and Stephano is just not even reacting at all. He's getting 3 lings total. Derp. Ain't no thing. The next timing, so we have 6 minutes for double gas, 7 minutes for Roach Warren Evo Chamber. You know, there's no reason not to do this, so 6 minutes, double gas, 7, Evo Roach. Really simple. And I would say, again, most players can get to this point, and do get to this point. If you play on the ladder, you see pretty much everyone doing these timings-ish. One thing that I think is pretty notable about Stephano is that he's very good about re-rallying the hatches to make sure that there's balanced drone production. Many people just rally to the newest base, no matter what, but Stephano's very aware. And you can do these nice little boxes and stuff like this to check out what's up. Here is the first period of variation. 7:30. So 7:30. If he's gonna or if he's doing a big attack early, then at 7:30 you save gas for Roach Lings. Cool. It's that easy. Otherwise, 7:30 layer. This is a pretty important moment because you can actually still layer here, and he can be doing a warp gate attack, and you can defend reasonably well, but it's still a little bit dangerous. Let me note that it seems like the stream's down. A bunch of people are saying stream is going awry. If the stream is up, type 1. If the stream is down, if the stream is up, type 1. If it's terrible, type 0. Just want to double check. All right, tons of 1s. All right, never mind. Everything's good. Let me come back for a moment to where we were before. At this game state, around 7:30, is where the big transitionary moment comes. You will have some attacks, but let me just note these timings. 7:15 to 7. That is 7:15 to 7:30 is when a really early 4 warp gate can happen, but no more gateways than that. Around 8 to 8:30 is when a 6-7-8 warp gate push is going to be coming. Either way, if you have been spot on with your injects, you will notice that there will be a round of larvae popping off here. This is probably the only really technical aspect of the build, is this moment when this larva round pops off. You need to decide, are these going to be roaches or are these going to be drones? These set of larvae. So as we come back to our Stephano notepad, again, if he's doing a big attack early, just start saving up for gas, larvae, and roaches. Otherwise, layer. What I am going to do is, now that you have seen this, I'm going to come back up like this. And just note, if he's doing a big attack early at 7:30, do this. Catch up with build as necessary. This top part is what we're really going to be focusing on. Now let's just finish up this gameplay. With our next set of gas, we get ling speed. Okay. When we can afford it, ling speed. And we are going to add a geyser. We see 1 geyser hanging out here. Very often we'll see Stephano add on 2 geysers, like this. So I want to note that there's this weird staggering like this. So I'm not going to go add 1 geyser, wait a little bit, add another geyser. I'll just say add 2 geysers a bit later. I'll change this to about 15 seconds later. Great. And that's it. And now we're basically done. 8 minutes. We're going to be adding on another hatchery. Holy crap, it's weird that I had trouble seizing that word even though I was looking at it. Yeah, so then 8 macro hatch, start unit production. Macro hatch, +1 range, start unit production, roach speed when layer is done. This build is pretty damn easy. Pretty damn easy. Stephano, I mean, he's making a couple of drones. He was actually at 60. He made about 5 more. I'll also note another weird thing is that he does this overlord flood. Yeah, when does he do it? I think he does it at 8 minutes. He floods overlords. Yeah, around 8 minutes he just does this huge flood of overlords, assuming he's safe. So I just will do that. Flood overlords! I mean, look, 6 overlords in production, and then literally after this point, it's just rally, rally, go. Just insane production. See, look how many overlords he's making. 80 of 126 food. He literally builds all the overlords first. I literally can't emphasize how easy this build is. We're even making all our overlords way early. We don't have to think about it anymore. It's so great. So yeah. And then we have our 4 geysers. And this is, I think, the most brilliant aspect of the build. We build as many roaches as our gas will afford. And then with the rest, we just make lings. Boom. Done. We do not get a 4th queen. No 4th queen. We have 3 queens. No 4th queen. No 4th queen. We're just rocking out a ton of units. And look at this. We're just flooding. Now, at this point in time, Stephano just doesn't really know that much. He's building a whole bunch of units. He's waiting for speed. The queen in the main is kind of alternating injects on these two. He's still not missing really any injects at any of his other expansions. He does a little poking and prodding. And as we can see, we're getting real close to maxed. And actually, he'll almost certainly be able to max out before 11 minutes. You know, once he just gets a little bit more larvae popping out. But then you just start blasting it down. I will say the reason that this build, this playstyle, this build from Stephano works is due to the fact that the lings can wrap in and force a lot more force fields. And you just start draining your opponent away. I mean, parting has, like, the money mix. See this extra 4th force field? You generally don't need to throw that one down. But against lings, you do. And then Stephano just begins attacking. Guess what's going on back home? Just, you know, building units. You know, maybe get another upgrade. Flooding in. No problem. Easy peasy. Easy frickin' peasy. And we overrun the front. There's not that much else crazy going on. Your money's going to get high. Stephano does tend to be a little bit irresponsible about spending the money in these spots. When the money gets high, it's very easy to just add a 4th queen and take another base. And also, as your money's getting high, adding on these geysers. But that's a little bit more priority to make sure you're spending minerals on mineral things, as opposed to spending time getting gas up. So, with relative ease, Stephano takes down one of the best Protosses in the world. That's so easy! Like, look at this build order, okay? Here we go. Let me, literally, I'm going to save it. Stephano style. Alright, cool. Bam. Before 5 men. Get 3 hatch, 3 queen, no gas. Great. Literally, however you can do this, do this. Then double gas, Evo Roach, get a layer ASAP, add a macro hatch at 8 minutes, and then start that unit production. Flood Overlords. Roach attack! Win? Yeah. Right? Very easy. And super effective. And this is something that just totally tickles my senses because essentially Stephano has discovered an optimization that will accelerate himself way far ahead of what seems possible for your average bear, and it's really good. Now, that part 1 went a little bit longer than I'd initially presumed because a lot of the pausing and stopping was explaining why it's okay to wait, in this case, why it's okay, where you don't want to overreact, where you don't want to do this, and for the most part, totally good. What I want to do now is I want to step into part 2, and there's a game I wanted to show in between this, which is essentially Stephano holding off a cheese pretty easily. Then in part 2, we're going to see an issue that can crop up with this play when we really can't seem to break down the front door and where some issues arise. We're going to be able to look at an air game in part number 3. So if you're wondering what happens with air,